Yo, yo, yo. Welcome back, everybody, to the Fantasy Football Pizzeria podcast. I am your host, Zach Succardi. With me, as always, is John Marler.
Mer.
You can find me on Twitter at FFPZ and on Instagram at Fantasy Football Pizzeria.
And you can find me at Life Never Lost on Twitter and at Life Never Lost on Instagram and youtube.com/Life Never Lost and lifeneverlost.com. Anything Life Never Lost.
Awesome. I believe you can find us on YouTube at youtube.com/
Fantasy Football Pizzeria, or is it FFPZ? We should probably know that.
Yeah, we should probably know that. We'll have to get back to you. We'll post something somewhere and let you know how the
Zach will tweet it out.
Yeah, I'll tweet it out. Let you know how to use this tubes works. So today we're gonna go over just the current news. We're gonna talk a little waivers, some sit starts. We'll give you our pepperoni and pineapple of the week. We'll do our pizza review and player comparison. Pardon me. And then we'll do our top 5 offensive leaders, song of the week, and then our closing quote. So just to give you a little rundown of what's what.
Man, that sounds awesome, Zach. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too, man. Me too. You know, something about structure, something about lists. You know, especially the older I get, making lists and fulfilling them, even if it's like just getting shit from the grocery store, really does feel like, you know, I'm accomplished and I'm doing something and I'm not forgetting something. That's huge.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, saving yourself time both in the act as well as not having to redo something later on.
Yes, and especially when you're having to go to the grocery store because you're on people, you know, you got to park, it's busy. You want to just sort of make it one and done. So that's definitely, especially on the list of things that like you have to do in a day that you want to just get it, you know, one and done, get her done, you know.
How have you been outside of grocery shopping?
Outside of grocery shopping, I've been okay, man. I am doing the little by little kind of mentality, just trying to keep it positive. I've been kind of struggling a little bit with my depression and things like that, but doing things like this podcasts, being open, you know, having my friends, talking music, you know, just trying to take care of myself when it comes to self-care. Yeah, just excited about all those little things, you know, it's just, you know, like I mentioned, a little by little kind of a thing. So I'm definitely feeling good, happy to be here, happy to be podcasting. So, yeah, other than my grocery list, not too bad. How about yourself, man?
I've been having a lot of vivid and somewhat bizarre dreams lately. And so the past few days, I've been journaling about it as soon as I wake up.
Wow, very cool. Very cool. So as soon as you wake up, you've been able to jot it down.
Yeah. Yeah, it's ranging from very violent acts to being in a giant mall that is also like a kind of theme park and being stuck on the outside of an elevator and almost falling to my death.
Wow, brutal.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
You know, dreams definitely, man, especially if you're jotting them down. That's when you can best recall them is as soon as you wake up, because even if I know I've had this happen where I'm like, okay, I'm not going to forget this. It was so memorable, good or bad. And then I brush my teeth and blam, 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 I forget. So to be able to just jot it down, honestly, I did that maybe for a week and I came up with some, you know, just some random things, you know, so like bizarre. I could have never, even with like a Mad Lib, I could have never created something so random, you know, if it had not been for me jotting it down from, you know, right after I came out of my dream.
Right. Yeah, my friend Matt had told me about journaling. I'd done it the first day just on my own just because it was a weird dream.
Mm-hmm.
But he told me that that's one of the things that you could possibly do to have lucid dreams where you can actually take control of your dreams because you recognize they're a dream.
That's awesome. Yeah, I can dig that. I know that there are a couple of like things that you can do to try to lucid dream. I can't recall, but I know that there were a couple of them. I'm sure that is one of them as far as jotting it down. I've had lucid dreams over my time, and it's been awesome. Usually, by the time I'm aware that I am in control and lucid, I wake up. But I have had some memorable dreams over my time that felt lucid and, you know, felt like I was in a waking state.
That's awesome, dude. You should consider yourself fortunate because a lot of people don't have that.
Yeah, and honestly, with smoking cannabis, which I do on a daily basis, it actually kind of will help you not dream. Believe it or not, it'll help like block out any like bad dreams or just dreams altogether. So there are times where ones will sneak in, and there are times where I won't smoke as much or just won't smoke at all. And man, when I don't smoke at all, it's like it goes from like the the variety, excuse me, of where it can pull from is so much greater than when I'm smoking. So it can just get so much more random,
Interesting.
Yeah,
So it's kind of scary that way.
yeah.
I do the same thing by listening to podcasts when I fall asleep. It suppresses how crazy my dreams get.
Hey, I think any of those tactics on having fucking peaceful sleep is awesome. Whether you're smoking, you're listening to something, you need the lights out, you need to hear fucking it raining. I'll listen to Coast to Coast AM, which is like an overnight like an alien show. But I'll put it so low that I really can't make out what they're saying because I know that my brain will want to kind of keep on listening. But there's something, I don't know, kind of peaceful about just sort of hearing overnight radio while I'm like laying in bed, especially Coast to Coast, because it deals with all the supernatural and all this kind of thing. Something that my mother and my grandmother did too when I was a kid. So there's that kind of connection too. But yeah, just something that is kind of nice to ease into sleep too.
You know what I didn't dream about?
What's that?
Ben Roethlisberger getting hurt and not playing the rest of the season.
What a segue from our lucid cannabis dreams to Ben Roethlisberger and his elbow. Awesome. Yeah, no, that is definitely part of our news section. So this is the no. So
bam, here's the news sound.
Yeah, news. So yeah, no, that's quite a bummer, man. I mean, you as a Steelers fan, I was thinking right away how bummed you were that you had him, I think the first week, right? And he did so shitty.
Yeah.
And then in the second week,
against the Patriots.
Yeah, and then exactly. Then you had him the second week playing, which was a good matchup.
Yeah, should have done well. Had decent projections, and even just from a non-fantasy perspective, Roethlisberger is the reason I got into football.
Oh wow!
I didn't really watch football very much before he started playing. I'd seen a few games here and there, but when he started playing in his rookie year, I think they won like 10 or 15 games in a row, something like that. That's what really got me into it and started my love of football and then eventually fantasy football. So it's a bummer, but their backup looked decent. What do you think from a fantasy perspective? What do you think this means for James Conner?
I think when you take a quarterback out of the game like that, I think it'll definitely depress the rest of the skill positions. Conner
Conner got hurt in that same game as well, and even with Ben, it's only been a game and a half, but things hadn't been doing well from him from at least a statistic standpoint so far. So even before that, it was having a hard time. Then plus the injury, then plus Ben out, makes it kind of tough. I don't have him in any of my leagues because he went pretty early, but I suppose if you think that he has potential in the future, now's probably a good time to buy low if you were to try to trade for him. But even as a Steelers fan right now, I don't feel great about his output going forward, especially since Jalen Samuels, the running back behind him, and even the rookie they drafted, Snell, he only had one run in that game, but it was like for over 20 yards. And so I'm not super optimistic. I like the guy a lot, and I hope things work out. But from a fantasy perspective, I'm not sure.
Snell, yeah. Yeah, I think Conner, I don't have him in any leagues this year. He went way too high for me. I think if he can stay healthy, he can still produce, especially in PPR. He'll definitely be more of that safety net for Mason Rudolph.
And hypothetically, with an experienced quarterback, they may run the ball more, but we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Conner would probably take the least hit. JuJu and then the wide receiver twos probably next up. But I don't know. I mean, I have JuJu in one league. It's kind of just like it's a free league, so I'm not as invested. I kind of just, I don't say took a flyer on him, but he was someone I don't have in any other league. It's half PPR. I mean, I still would definitely hold onto JuJu because I don't think selling him is going to really do anything as far as getting your maximum value with Ben being out.
And again, it was a small sample size, but JuJu and Mason Rudolph seem to have good chemistry, at least in the short time that they did play together. And JuJu seems talented enough. I think he's going to be about the same as what he's been doing so far. Hopefully, we can see some improvement, but
Hopefully so. And I think one more thing to mention is for James Washington that him and Mason Rudolph went to the same school and they already have that connection.
yeah, I remember when both of them got drafted. People were like, "Oh yeah, they're the Ben and AB of their college team," and so it was cool seeing them get drafted to the same, both on the Steelers. And so now we'll see if that connection pans out.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, as just a football fan, I'm excited to see Mason Rudolph get a huge chunk of the season to see what it is that he can do, to see if a wide receiver 2 will actually step up, to see if it is that connection with him and Washington. So definitely something to keep an eye out for.
And again, a small sample size, but Vance McDonald got 2 touchdown passes from him, so could be a good target. Had 7 receptions in that game. We'll talk a little bit more about him later. If you had Ben Roethlisberger like I did in every league, almost every league, do you think that Mason Rudolph is someone you should pick up, or?
Definitely not. Unless
not
it's,
yet, not yet.
Unless
you gotta wait and see.
Super flex, unless it's beyond deep.
Unless you're really desperate.
Unless it's dynasty, in which case in super flex and in dynasty you would likely already have him rostered.
Josh Allen or Mason Rudolph.
Yeah, Josh Allen. even the defensive Josh Allen on the Jaguars. No, but I definitely root for him, and we were talking earlier on how they had drafted him, and Ben made us think about it, saying that we don't need a quarterback, we need all these other positions that we need to address. But I'm. As a football fan, I'm excited to check that out.
Yeah, so wait and see on Rudolph. Similar news, not as bad, at least on paper so far. Brees broke his thumb or his hand or something like that, and
some ligament in his thumb.
Going to have surgery, out at least 6 weeks. It depends on where you look at. Brady Quinn, famous quarterback, gave his expert analysis saying that it's a minimum of 6 weeks and it could be a lot longer. So, but I mean, you can only estimate these things so much. But with him out, what do you think of Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, other than that, we own him in our dynasty league, and we're not going to play him. But when we drafted, because John and I both own a dynasty league together, I had to convince John this is a good. This is a good player that we should look into drafting because I mean, he's already on the fucking Saints. If something happens to Drew Brees here, which it has, excuse me, I have some hiccups here. He has the opportunity. He was the starting quarterback. We got him so damn late. I mean, it's more of sort of a funny thing that like we get to share talking about Teddy Bridgewater. But it's definitely gonna bring everyone's value down even just a little. Guys like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, I think, will suffer the least just because of the target share going to Michael Thomas, and then Alvin Kamara just being so damn dynamic. And they still have a great offensive line. They still have some really, with having Ted Ginn, he's more of a deep threat, and then even Jared Cook. Latavius Murray. So I don't think it'll be as crucial as, let's say, with the Steelers, but definitely I wouldn't be too excited to have anyone outside of Kamara and Thomas as far as the Saints go.
Yeah, and just so people know, so this is my first time ever co-owning a team, let alone my first time doing a dynasty team. So we were a little unsure how things would go in terms of our dynamics with each other. I mean, we get along well, but we've never managing a team is a different thing.
True.
And I think things went pretty well in terms of we had good discussions. I think we were on the same page for most of the most important picks, and I think we did a pretty good job compromising in terms of some of the other picks that we had. But the one, not necessarily bump in the road, but kind of the funniest thing was the Teddy Bridgewater, because what we drafted back in June or something like that. It was pretty early on. And the moment Zach suggested that we draft Teddy Bridgewater, I gave him a lot of crap for it. Of course, we obviously ended up drafting him, but I just thought it was hilarious that he was so pumped about Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, I'll give you credit though. Drew Brees did get hurt, and now he's got his opportunity.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still not like super pumped about him.
No, I mean it's just more just more funny to talk about. In this particular dynasty league, our quarterbacks are Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins, Teddy Bridgewater, Kyler Murray, and Taysom Hill. So, I mean, we got Teddy Bridgewater so damn late, and then Taysom Hill, I think, probably even later. But
Yeah.
just to have both those guys, just to have it on a high-powered offense, and especially within dynasty, there comes a point after where you're just sort of looking for upside guys, even in the quarterback position. But it'll be interesting to see, man. I'm definitely rooting for Teddy Bridgewater coming off that injury a couple years ago. He played for the Jets last year, at least in preseason, and we traded him to the Saints. So I'm definitely rooting for him, hoping that he can make something of it.
Yeah, so if you're in need of a quarterback, we talked obviously about Mason Rudolph with the Steelers, Teddy Bridgewater with the Saints, a couple other quarterbacks that seem to be available in most of my leagues that I looked at were Jimmy Garoppolo, San Francisco, Kirk Cousins for the Vikings, and Daniel Jones of the Giants. What do you think in terms of if you need a quarterback out of those list of people? Who kind of do any one of those guys stand out to you as the front runner of who you'd want to play?
I'd probably say Kirk Cousins against Oakland. I know that he had his first week, they only had 10 pass attempts or some shit, or 10 passes.
Yeah.
Just nothing.
8 out of 10 for
Yeah.
98 yards.
yeah.
And a touchdown.
He also got a rushing touchdown. So if you played him the first week, you didn't
Decent
see two,
numbers,
Yeah,
yeah.
decent. But I would say I'd go Kirk Cousins, and then from there second would be Garoppolo. And then honestly, I'd probably go Teddy Bridgewater over Daniel Jones just because of the experience. I mean, I know Daniel Jones is more of a running quarterback, even though we haven't seen it so much, and there's a lot of upside there. With Saquon and playing Tampa Bay, but I'd say I would go Teddy Bridgewater and then look over Daniel Jones. But quarterback streaming, definitely the options can kind of thin out as we get into the season with all these injuries. So sometimes the options aren't really sexy or the most exciting to talk about, but especially in one quarterback leagues, I think these are pretty decent options, especially with Kirk Cousins and Jimmy G.
Yeah, sometimes the quarterback streams can thin out more than a doctor who's checking out Antonio Brown because he's farting in his face.
Can you believe that? Farting in someone's fucking face? Like, that is so insulting. It's like, I mean, gosh, even farting around someone.
Yeah, I wasn't super interested. So when my friend Sean sent me this article first, I thought it was a joke. I thought it was like an Onion report where it was just a fake thing. But then I started checking out the website and saw no, all the other articles are legit and not humorous at all. So it was real, and obviously more reports have come out about it. What's pretty funny too is an article today, and it's in the show note links. So if you guys want to look at those, you can check out this information. Antonio Brown, how if I was accused of this, there might be different ways of handling it. Antonio Brown's handling it from the perspective of, oh no, that doctor liked me farting in his face, and I got texts of him talking about how much he liked me farting in his face. So to me, that's just admitting that he did it in the first place. But that combined with the rape allegations, it doesn't seem like, at least right now, the NFL is taking any action on him. So what do you think about him from a fantasy perspective? I know we have him individually on our separate teams on a couple. I got him on 2 teams. I think you have him on 1. What do you think? How do you feel about him going forward? Are you going to play him? Are you going to try to trade him? And if so, what are some good targets?
Great question, man. Honestly, going back real quick to the fart thing, I love that there's stories about fucking farts, man. There's something that
this is the first time I can remember that in an NFL story.
The adolescent in me is just loving this, like farts. I'd rather hear about farts than rape allegations, than guys faking hate crimes, any of this shit. Farts definitely, that's more of the kind of news that I'm more interested in. But on the reallys, farting in someone's face, that's no bueno. And then also him having the text messages about it is just awesome. This is the kind of news that I'm definitely excited about. As far as having him in the one league, I think I got him in the 4th round.
Oh, wow.
I was kind of happy.
That's a good value.
Oh yeah, I mean, geez, he's a first round talent. I'm definitely playing him. I played him last week. I'm kind of frustrated with it because of all the news, all the back and forth. This is the first year I've ever owned him. And again, it's only in one league, so I'm kind of, all right, I'll try this out. It could really, really pay off. So I started him last week. Glad that he got a touchdown. He got, I forget how many, he only played maybe like 20 or so snaps or something, but he got eight or 9 targets, something like that.
Yeah, he was targeted about a third of the time of the snaps that he played. I think he had 5 targets, 4 receptions, something around 50 yards, which was the most for the Patriots receiving core, which is a little bit surprising since they scored 43-0.
I know I had Josh Gordon and got like fucking like 12 yards and one
dude.
and one reception.
I played Josh Gordon thinking he'd destroy Miami, and he had like 2 catches for 20 yards or something.
But how well the New England defense played, you can never predict that to be the case when it comes to game script and all this kind of thing as far as who you're going to be playing. Back to your question on AB, I honestly wouldn't trade him personally just because of the value that he brings. I mean, I'm hearing stories about farts. This is definitely the direction I want to go in. I haven't seen any action from the NFL. They spoke to, I think, that one personal trainer who had the civil suit against him, and it doesn't seem that they've come with anything. So he's definitely going to be playing. Well, I shouldn't say definitely, but it's likely he'll be playing in week 3 against my New York Jets. You had another question.
Should you try to use this opportunity to try to trade him?
So the suggestions I would have for this would be if you know someone who is an Antonio Brown fan, who is a Pittsburgh fan, or a New England fan, and possibly a Pittsburgh fan, try to sort of play that whole card with it. I mean, and if you're going to do it, I would suggest doing it this week, only because of the
who knows what'll happen.
Yeah, and he just came off of a game where he scored a touchdown. Me personally, I'm holding. And really, maybe just because I'm more stubborn than anything else. And
what if someone offered you Tyreek Hill for him?
Would I take that? No.
Oh, okay. And I know you're a big Hill fan.
I'm a Taysom Hill fan. No, I'm joking. No, just with his injury, I just want guys who are going to play now.
What about JuJu?
What I
JuJu?
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably only because he's the number one and he's so dynamic and all the targets. Whereas with AB, there's so much to take. Who knows, man? Yeah. You know how that team, how him personally, all the different variables.
So we obviously talked about Antonio Brown last week, but I got a new conspiracy theory for you.
Cool, let's hear it.
So these sexual assault allegations came up about him. The accuser filed a civil suit and not a criminal suit. So that means he can't go to jail and that she can only get money out of it. She also then told the NFL, sorry, I can't talk to you about this right now. I'm getting married. Maybe sometime next week. Interesting timing, right?
Yeah, interesting timing.
And also, so what I'm thinking is that this whole thing was actually a plant by the New England Patriots. Why would they do this to themselves? You may ask that question. There's a lot of discussions about the Patriots and Antonio Brown being investigated for collusion in terms of orchestrating his departure from Oakland. And all those discussions seem to be disappearing from the media when all these sexual assault allegations came up. A perfect distraction. Also, because there's no criminal suit, it's different than what the NFL usually deals with because they're normally criminal suits. And the the Patriots already have experience wiping underneath the rug sexual problems with like Robert Kraft and his massage parlor. They never got punished for that at all. And it was a perfect distraction. He can't go to jail. They'll pay her off. They delayed the time. And now they planted this fart story to distract you from the sexual assault allegations.
Well, job well done. I mean, I'd much rather hear about farts in the news than people, with sexual assault. I like where you're going because I like the whole conspiracy angle. I like to think that things can be that calculated, especially him trying to get
Especially
out of the Raiders.
Belichick just planning this whole thing.
Yes, and there is an element to him that I admire as far as what he'll do to
How evil he is.
maybe. I mean, you can translate that, but just he wants to win so bad. That I'm not saying he
I wouldn't put it
orchestrated
past
this,
him to do this.
but yeah, there is something in there that like I feel he has that other element that he's like, I'm going to look at all my surroundings and do what I need to do to get a win on Sundays. And as ambiguous as that is, you could draw it into some kind of fun conspiracies and such. I love watching his press conferences, his demeanor. I mean, even as a Jet fan, I'm supposed to hate him and all this, but just there's something about it. There's something like about him that like it just makes me laugh.
It's Satan in his heart.
Yeah, exactly. I think Satan. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah, I'm not saying I believe it, but it was an entertaining thought that
No, totally.
it made a little bit too much sense, but and I wouldn't put it past him.
I like it, especially in today's day and age, to be able to draw all those conclusions, to kind of piece everything together, play your own
I feel like
NCSI.
it felt like super
football.
obvious to me. I'm not sure why more people aren't talking about this. But
Yeah.
in any case, let's talk about some waivers, Zach. What are some good waivers that you think people should pick up?
So as far as who I think should be started, from all the waiver picks this past Tuesday, Wednesday, I would start any Kansas City wide receiver in your flex. I mean, just fucking start them. Mecole Hardman, Robinson. I mean, anyone. Dwayne Bowe. I mean, seriously, just start any of those motherfuckers. Because I mean, the targets. It's especially as a flex. I mean, you just can't go wrong. It's definitely a boom or bust kind of a thing, because you're not sure where the targets are going to go, but they'll definitely be plentiful.
Yeah, it seems like they're throwing the ball enough that a lot of people can pick up on the share. So
Dude, totally, man. Just start any of those motherfuckers. I would want Hardman over Robinson, to be honest with you.
awesome.
But I would
Because
start
I think like Robinson got all the press, all right?
yeah. Every time he fought, every time there was a deep ball, it was Robinson, which was driving me crazy because I had Sammy Watkins.
Me too.
And I didn't play him that first week where he had like fucking 50 points.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, see, props to you, man.
Well, it was more of a I had no one else.
I played Curtis Samuel. I'm like, Curtis Samuel, yeah, this is the play.
Nice.
And then from there's Raheem Mostert on the San Francisco 49ers. He's
And
there.
you talked about him last week, so that was a good pickup if you had played him. I'd picked him up, but I wasn't super confident in playing him. I wish I had because I played Breida instead, who still had a decent game, had over 120 yards, but Mostert just had some pretty high scores, I think around 22 points in at least half-point PPR.
Yeah, he was dominant. I mean, that was a surprising game, especially the Cincinnati was playing at home. I, like a dumbass, started their defense and got negative 8 points. 2 weeks in a row, I had Jaguars D first week and then Cincinnati D. Both got me negative 8 points, and somehow I am 2-0 in that league. Well, thanks to my genius drafting and having Lamar Jackson, that definitely helps.
Yeah.
I was happy to see Mostert play such a dominant role. I mean, we were looking at the snap counts before. Offensively, he's played 54 snaps, and then that's to Breida's 51. With Breida supposedly being the number one, and that that Mostert's playing more. I mean, that definitely bodes well for more of a confident start. Especially if you have multiple flexes, you can throw them in there. And
So do you still play Breida?
oh, definitely, yeah.
Either one of them is a
yes,
good play.
totally, yes. In that offense, I mean, geez, even like Jeff Wilson, I think got like who they just picked up they signed off their practice squad. They had him on the roster last year. He got I think like 2 touchdowns in like the red zone or some bullshit. So
Man, they must have a great running back coach, man. It seems like whoever they plug in there does pretty well.
yeah, good call on that. Yeah, totally, dude. But no, I would play Mostert, and I would play Breida. And then from there, I would also look to play Peyton Barber. I think he had like next to Zeke like the most touches in week 2. I think it was up to like 23 or something like that. It was definitely one of the higher week 2 totals in touches. And then going against the New York Giants, I could see that being a pretty good matchup. They're playing in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay definitely needs to get their act together. They're kind of a little bit all over the place, and then playing the New York Giants, I think, will definitely be a interesting game. You know, I mean, of course with Daniel Jones, but as far as the Tampa Bay side of the ball, I think with Peyton Barber, it'll be an interesting play. And then from there, there's Frank Gore. I got to look at his numbers again, but he had some like crazy amount of touches. I mean, which was because of Devin Singletary's injury, but for a spot start, someone that you can put in your flex, even as your RB2.
Do we know, is Singletary going to play? I think he was questionable last I had looked.
I think he is questionable. It's a hamstring. Those tend to linger, so even if he does play, I wouldn't be excited about
Minimize it, yeah.
I would look to play Gore, especially in one of your flex spots. And then as a tight end, I would just look at Will Dissly.
If you're desperate.
If you're desperate, yeah. The Saints, they're playing the Saints this week. They're pretty strong against the tight end position. However, I think when it comes to the tight end position, if you're going to pick up anyone off waivers and just kind of throw, just a dart throw, I would go for Will Dissly over guys like Jimmy Graham or.
Yeah, there's not a lot of other options, and even if they hit, it'll be super random. So at least there's some data around him. We'll see if it continues or not.
Yeah, and another thing I want to mention is look to also pick up Chris Herndon from the New York Jets. He is suspended the first 4 games, so it'll be one more game where we will play the New England Patriots, and then we have a bye week. Then on week 5, where Darnold's supposed to come back, Herndon will be eligible to play that week. And I think it'll be an interesting piece because the New York Jets don't really have a strong wide receiver core. If you saw in the first game, he relied a lot upon Jameson Crowder and, of course, Lev Bell. I think having that short to intermediate route kind of player like Chris Herndon definitely would be an interesting add. You'd have to keep him on your bench for a week or two, but especially in PPR, even half PPR, I would say it would be a worthy add.
That's great, man. I bet a lot of people aren't talking about that, so that's some good advice there.
Cool, man.
What do you think of Aaron Jones, man? So first, at least in half-point PPR, he got 4 points in week 1 and then 24 points in week 2. This week, he's at home versus Denver, Packers versus Denver, and then they have a running back named Aaron Jones. What do you think?
I think you always got to play Aaron Jones.
Always,
yeah. He's definitely someone you just play no matter what, especially in that second week. I'm a believer in Aaron Jones. I'm a little bit hesitant with that offense, just with the new coaching staff. I'm a little hesitant there, but you always got to play Aaron Jones. He's definitely one of those running backs. That I would always play week to week, and I'm glad that my cousin didn't play him because I played against him in our dynasty league, and I thought he would have played him, but instead he went with the 2 tight end stack with Zach Ertz and then Darren Waller.
Ooh. Which, man, that's
why wouldn't you? I mean,
it's got to be a really baller tight end to even compete with
totally, dude.
A running back.
Totally,
and I sat him, but I played Chris Carson instead of Aaron Jones, and
nice.
Really wish I'd played Aaron
Jones.
Well,
nice play in the sense of like to me that would be
better than playing a tight end over him.
Well, of course, yeah. That's definitely I would play Carson over Aaron Jones. But just unfortunate with Carson's fumble.
Yeah.
And from what I'm hearing, they're gonna that's why he I guess he got benched or he didn't.
Yeah, I think he had fumbled twice in that
Twice.
game.
Oh fuck. Oh jeez.
And one of them was pretty crucial to let the Steelers come back and get within 2 points. But
that. I love Chris Carson though.
Yeah, me too.
I think doing that.
Yeah. Another running back that has had some a lot of hype I felt in the preseason. Miles Sanders, running back for the Eagles. He's at home versus Detroit. Week 1 got 3.2 points. Week 2 got 5.2 points. Where are you at on him? What do you think he's worth starting or holding off if you got better options?
It's a great question. Honestly, I would definitely hold off if you have better options. I mean, more in like the deeper leagues if you have multiple flexes. It wouldn't be the worst start ever. I know that's not the most ringing endorsement for it. As far as snap count, though, he definitely out snaps the count on for all the other running backs for the Philadelphia Eagles, and especially how injured you have Deshaun Jackson, you have Alshon Jeffrey, Dallas Goedert, even. So that pretty much is going to leave JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Nelson Aguilar, Zach Ertz. So I think, and then Mac Hollins, excuse me, just for the dynasty folks. But for someone like Sanders, with the amount of snaps that he plays, it could be an interesting play. I would look to do it more of a flex spot, unless you're really, really thin at running back and you absolutely have to play him. They're playing against Detroit. Detroit against running backs. What does it say here? We have about, yeah. If I recall, let me think here. The first week they were playing against the Cardinals. They had David Johnson, did pretty decent. And then they played in the second week here. Forgive me for not knowing this. The Chargers. So then, having what's his face? Austin Eckler.
Yeah.
So it could be an interesting matchup. I mean, there would be worse plays, but I would say this is probably one of the better opportunities for Miles Sanders in this Week 3 matchup.
Miles Sanders or Singletary?
Miles Sanders.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So this next player we have on a dynasty team together, Kenyon Drake. He is Miami Dolphins running back playing in Dallas this week. Got 3.7 points week 1 and 7.3 points. Oh, man, the reverse.
Yeesh.
In week 2. What do you think of him going forward? He definitely hasn't met what I think our expectations were for him. But, I mean, Miami in general has just had a really, really tough time with everything now. And then they traded, not that this affects Drake too much, but, it seems like the team is kind of giving up on the season because they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick to the Steelers, who is one of their best, if not their best, defensive player. What do you think of that team and playing him going forward?
I think it's very scary. I think playing him, he's definitely the best offensive player on that team. He'd be the only play that I would consider on that team. But I don't think we're actually going to be playing him. I forget who we have over him, but I would be nervous to play him, especially this week against Dallas. And yeah, when your team has fire sales like the Miami Dolphins have, and when they're just making these moves that are obviously leading towards tanking and not really being competitive this season, it's hard to be confident to play a guy like Kenyon Drake. There is garbage time. He's a great pass catcher. I'm sad to have to sit him. I mean, who knows? He could have a decent game against Dallas. It's kind of one of those, but I'm not confident on it. I'm not excited about it. As I mentioned, we're not even starting him, and in this league we have like 5 or 6 flex spots. But it's a dynasty league. I have him in one redraft league. I'm hoping he gets traded. There have been news in the past week or so about him getting traded. It'll probably be to a team like the Eagles or the Panthers or the Bills or something where there's already other running backs by committee or just other people that could eat.
Tampa Bay.
Yeah, Tampa Bay would be interesting. But it never seems that guys get traded to a fantasy, a fantasy relevant team where it would actually benefit fantasy players. It always seems that there's, already so many cooks in the kitchen and he gets traded and yada, yada, yada. But I would definitely sit Kenyon Drake until further notice.
All right. Well, who was your Pepperoni of the week? And we'll remind our listeners that the Pepperoni is a player that performed exceptionally well and maybe sometimes we take into context better than what we expected. Because, I could say Julio Jones had a great game, but you kind of expect Julio Jones.
Exactly.
It's not super surprising. So who kind of was a delightful surprise to you?
It was Mark Andrews. It was in that I have him in a couple leagues, in a few dynasty leagues. I was happy because I have Hunter Henry. I played him the first week, and then everything happened with his injury. So I wasn't in a bad place having to play Mark Andrews. However, having Hunter Henry and all this, you wanted to go for the guy who you drafted earlier on. But he was great. He had 8 receptions on 10 targets, 112 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, as far as the fucking tight end position,
Yeah,
I've had
awesome.
such up and down luck over the years that if you can hit on one of these motherfuckers, God, man, it makes your lineup, it makes just kind of going into Sunday a little less scary because you just know that at that position, it's a onesie position typically,
Yeah.
unlike running backs and wide receivers. So when you have a guy in there that's going to produce like this, I mean, it's so pepperoni.
That's awesome, dude. That's funny because I was in the very similar situation as you. Sounded like you drafted Andrews.
I did,
I had
thankfully.
Hunter Henry in a league got hurt, and I was able to pick up Andrews on the waivers and played him this last week. So I was really happy to see him do well as well.
Hell yeah! How about you, John? Who's your pepperoni of the week?
Another tight end, Vance McDonald, helped me in a league. He got 7 receptions, only 38 yards, but 2 touchdowns.
Nice.
And seemed to have a good chemistry with Mason Rudolph. So, and it seems like strategically the Steelers are making an effort to get him the ball and give him opportunities because they know that he has potential if he has the ball in his hands. Because in the first game against the Patriots, he wasn't even targeted for most of the game until late in the fourth quarter when it didn't matter much anymore. And so starting off in the game of the second game, first pass went to him, and really even like the first quarter or so, he was the only Steeler who was getting receptions. And so, he was drafted, I think, a little bit higher than what I thought was where I wanted to get him in most leagues, but he dropped me in one of those leagues, and so I'm happy to see that there's some potential there. So that was a delightful surprise to me.
Something I want to mention real quick about tight ends and rookie quarterbacks or I should say second-year quarterbacks. They're just a lot, I don't know, when it comes to that relationship, they rely on the tight end position a little more, it seems, because they're not throwing downfield as much. Maybe it's more of a safety net thing. So just something to kind of keep an eye out for. Just a trend to kind of keep an eye out for, just to kind of see, because I've noticed over the years. I mean, it's probably something that's very obvious to some fantasy managers, but maybe not all managers. So just something to kind of keep in mind, especially at the damn tight end position. I mean, to me, again, it's so up and down that if there's any little trend, stat, loophole, whatever that can make it, sort of more of an exciting play or something to keep an eye out for, just definitely worth mentioning.
So what was your pineapple of the week, or something that disappointed you?
That's a great way of asking and explaining, because pineapple shouldn't be on pizza. Therefore, it is bad. And my pineapple of the week was the fucking Jags coach on his decision to go for 2 at the end of that dumbass game. I mean, come on.
And just so people know, not that Zach has a vested interest in the Jaguars as a fan or anything. No. It's by going for 2, you're delaying overtime, and by preventing overtime, and by preventing overtime, that's more fantasy points that could have been scored.
Exactly. You're depriving fantasy managers of more fantasy points. I mean, and your team of a fucking win.
It's like he wasn't even considering how this would affect fantasy
I don't know what he was considering. I almost wanted to say it was something, like
he wanted to go home one way or another.
Dude, for real, man. He was signed off. He had
Ramsey was yelling at him.
He had a reservation. Yeah. He had to field trade offers for Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, definitely the pineapple of the week, dude. Just because I was just like, are you kidding me, man? With this fucking backup quarterback, or and it's not the strongest offense. I mean, they're trying to find their way, and I mean, it was a division game.
Right.
Why the fuck would they do that? It was such a bad call to me. It was so frustrating. I'd be like, gosh, man, even just sitting on my couch. So, yeah, dude, that easily for me was the pineapple of the week, that fucking bullshit.
Well, for me, the pineapple of the week was, again, Ben Roethlisberger getting hurt. I know we talked about it earlier, so I won't dive deep into it, but I wanted to be honest with my pineapple and how that affected me, both as a fantasy owner. I lost 2 games that even if, because Ben Roethlisberger, by the time he got hurt, only had 3 points. And there's one game I lost by like 3 points.
Oh, man.
If I had almost pretty much any other quarterback, I would have won 2 more games in my leagues. So that was a bummer. But you know what's not a bummer? Pizza.
Hell no.
And this pizza of the week, Zach brought over a Papa Murphy's pizza? And for people who don't know, what's Papa Murphy's?
It's a great question. So Papa Murphy's is this place that actually makes the pizza but does not cook it for you. So it has all the fresh ingredients. You call, tell them what you want. They'll put it together, and you take it home and bake it.
So
Now,
better than a frozen pizza.
better than frozen pizza.
Maybe not quite or I won't say as good, but not in the same tier as like fully made pizza.
Typically
or
not.
Delivered pizza.
Typically not. No, it's typically not in the same tier as just your regular pizza that they bake for you. When I first heard about this place, I thought it was bullshit because I'm hungry now. I don't want to fucking bring the pizza home and fuck with the oven and all that. I just want to eat it, enjoy it, move on. But man, it's really delicious. Having it out here in New Mexico. I don't know if it's on the East Coast. I haven't seen it. It's great. It's usually a little cheaper than your average pizzeria. Again, as John mentioned, the quality is a little bit better than frozen pizza just because it's fresher ingredients. But what a cool idea! Like seriously, it's just another thing to add to pizza that's sort of fun and exciting. You get to bring it home and bake it, and I especially like my pizza crispy. So to be able to be in charge of how well done I like it means a lot to me, as opposed to having that really doughy bullshit. So yeah, no, that's a little bit about Papa Murphy's, not Papa John's, but Papa Murphy's.
Yeah, and so we got pepperoni and black olives on it. So, do you have a fantasy football player comparison for this Papa Murphy's pizza?
Yes, I do. And I would say my comparison this week for Papa Murphy's Pizza would be quarterback for the Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen. And the reason why I say that is he's a good start. He had a first 2 weeks that were really, really strong outings. Yeah. He actually played in New Jersey 2 weeks in a row. First week he played the New York Jets. Second week the New York Giants. So that I'm from New Jersey, there's a little tie there. Kind of put it in there for me. And he did enough as far as winning the games, obviously, for his team, but he also, as far as fantasy numbers are concerned, I was a little nervous about him before the season started, even in that first game, because the Jets had him, kind of held him down. Then, of course, things definitely changed. But I would compare him to this in a lot of ways because, so Papa Murphy's, we said it's not like a pizzeria pizza; it's a take and bake. So, the Buffalo Bills, they're a New York team, but it's not, they're the only team that plays in New York because technically Giants, or I should say MetLife Stadium, is in New Jersey. It's in East Rutherford. So there's sort of that whole tie. Me being a Jets fan, it's a little bit So, it's, I don't want to diss Papa Murphy's and say that's more on their end because it's not. It's just more of that kind of duality of Josh Allen, Papa Murphy's. It's a good thing. It's not regular pizza place, so there's a little bit of a change with it. He played in Jersey 2 weeks in a row. That's where I'm from. He beat the Jets and the motherfucking Giants. So we shall see. I think this week they have the Bengals up in Buffalo.
Okay.
Yeah, so that
we'll
could
see
be
how
interesting.
Papa Murphy's
does. Let's see if this is going to set him up for a solid week 3. How about you, John? Who is your pineapple? Or excuse me, no.
My pizza review.
Pizza review. Forgive me. It's a little late, and pizza, pineapple, pepperoni, black olives. Please continue, John.
Yeah, so I would rank this. Last week we had frozen DiGiorno pizza.
Mm-hmm.
I would rank it better than that. Week 1 we had Giovanni's, so I would rank it below that. I thought the cheese was probably the best part of the pizza. I thought it was really fresh. It was a good amount. It had a good texture, had a good taste. Really enjoyed that piece of it. Toppings, especially the black olives.
Yes.
The amount, the texture, the freshness of those black olives, the taste was very good.
Yes.
Pepperonis, I think, were a little average. They're a little thin.
They were thin.
Didn't have a strong flavor to it one way or the other, but didn't hurt the pizza. Sauce didn't have nearly enough sauce from what our dynasty team is actually named extra sauce.
It is.
And so, we both feel, I know I guess theoretically some people don't like as much sauce, but I don't know those people.
So fucking delicious. And that was kind of my bad. I said no topping cheese, so they don't put like tons of cheese on the, to cover up all the toppings and all this.
Okay.
They also,
is that normally what they do?
Yeah. And,
okay.
They'll put cheddar on there somewhat, like a little, kind of here and there. So not a lot of cheddar, but I'm not such a fan. But I should have said extra sauce. So that was kind of my bad.
Oh, okay.
I was kind of
But
hoping.
I mean, if this is the default sauce, it's still not enough.
Yeah, totally. It has to always be a little more sauce.
And
So much flavor in there.
because there wasn't a lot of it, I wasn't able to see how it tasted. Really, it was just
Buffalo
kind of the
Bills.
color there.
Buffalo Bills.
I thought the crust was average. Wasn't like you cooked it very well. So props to you for that.
Thank you.
Very crispy, even throughout the middle.
Hell
to
yeah.
where some pizzas will flop in the middle.
No, not floppy.
not this
bullshit.
one. Not this one. And so I would compare it to Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Why him?
I really like Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he has a good presentation, especially in the post-game show when Deshaun Jackson gives him his jewelry and his chest hair.
Okay.
He sticks around even when you think he's, Papa Murphy's could have been out of business years ago, but they're still going.
True.
Same thing with Ryan Fitzpatrick. And, when you're in a situation you need him, he's there.
I like it. I like that. Because, sometimes you just need a pizza on the go. Papa Murphy's. Take and bake.
Awesome, dude. Well, let's see. We discussed potentially having a game of the week. Do we have a game of the week?
We do. I don't know if we haven't noted, but the game of the week is going to be the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They're playing in Kansas City. They both have stud-ass quarterbacks. Both huge starts to the season.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if Baltimore is able to continue. So in one case, it could be a shootout and could be a high-scoring game, great for fantasy. And as a Steelers fan, if it doesn't go that way, it'll potentially go the way where Kansas City blows them out. So it's a win-win for me.
Yeah, I think it's funny because with Kansas City, they could potentially blow out any team, it seems,
right?
With how high power that offense is. Baltimore has a little bit stronger defense. Playing in Kansas City, this is their home opener. How well both quarterbacks have played, and even their wide receiver positions with Hollywood Brown.
Yeah.
And then my boy Mark Andrews, my Pepperoni of the week, Mark Andrews. Shout out.
He's been doing great.
And even
Kansas City's defense hasn't been stellar, so there's opportunity for those people to still do well.
Totally. Yeah, no, Kansas City's defense is still, kind of in that mediocre to kind of bad area. So that could definitely prove to be more plentiful for the Ravens.
Is Mark Ingram going to play? Do we know? I know he was injured and was a little questionable.
Great question. He is going to play, as far as I've seen from the recent updates, and I would start him. Although I would keep an eye out for Justice Hill. He's someone that I would potentially add to your bench because he is a pass catching back. He's someone that we mentioned on our first show, where he was someone that I believe I reached for him in my draft. Just because I love his situation being on the Ravens, his speed. He's a pretty tenacious player. And then just with Mark Ingram and then there's Gus Edwards. I like Mark Ingram, but here we are, there's already been an injury to him, even though it's sort of a minor one. Just something I would keep in mind. Could be an interesting play if they're trailing. I would see more as Justice Hill as a pass catching back, more of a third down back, but just someone to kind of keep in mind. I'm not saying I would start him at all or anything like that, but just someone to kind of keep an eye on in this game.
Do you think Sammy Watkins, wide receiver of the Kansas City Chiefs, has a bounce back week? He had a little bit of a down week this last week.
Yeah, he had a shit ton of targets even in this past week. I think he's one of the top leaders in targets or some shit, or even in yards possibly here in a little bit. I would hope that Sammy Watkins is a little bit more involved within the completions, touchdowns, etc. But again, with all those Kansas City wide receivers, you're playing all of them.
Yeah.
Sammy Watkins is going to be your wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, Hardman and Robinson and Dwayne Bowe. They're all going to be, just flex plays. But definitely boom or bust. But if they're going to hit, as we saw this weekend with DeMarcus Robinson, they're going to hit.
Yeah. If you needed to roll the dice, they're good people to look at.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Well, let's go ahead and go into our top 5 segment. Here's the top 5 song. So this is where we talk about the top 5 passers, running backs, and receivers in terms of yardage. And so let's go into the passing yards. Last week looked a little bit funny. Andy Dalton was leading the pack. He's been dethroned.
Oh, shit.
and you'll never guess, Patrick Mahomes is now the new number one Kansas City Chiefs quarterback, if you haven't heard of him. 821 yards. Andy Dalton's still up there, though. Number 2 at 729 with the Bengals. Dak Prescott with the Cowboys at 674, so he jumped up. Kyler Murray with the Cardinals. So I know he's been doing pretty decent in terms of fantasy production. I know that they've had a hard time as a team still, but a lot better than last year so far, at least in terms of potential. He's at 657 yards. And did you have something about Kyler Murray you wanted to say?
Yeah, I was going to say he hasn't run for shit. I think he had like 7 yards running so far, and that was part of his appeal is that he could, give you some groundwork. But I'm happy to see that he's the 4th on this passing yards list. I didn't play him this week. I played Josh Allen and I played Phillip Rivers over him, which the Phillip Rivers play wasn't really the best one, but hey. It happens.
It's tough. He has those games.
Yeah, and I really didn't expect he'd be so high on the yardage, so I'm happy to see that.
Yeah, and this one's a little surprising to me. Matthew Stafford, the Detroit's quarterback, is in 5th place with 630 yards.
He's always real sneaky. Keep an eye out for him. He's not like a sexy player or someone you're like, oh shit.
But if you need someone, he's
if
often
you need someone,
available. It seems like every year he's available.
And he, even though he's not like, as I said, like a sexy pepperoni pizza start, he is still, someone to keep an eye out for.
So going to rushing yards, we got Dalvin Cook, Minnesota's running back. Had an awesome game last week, a big long run that helped top him off. He's at 265 yards. Saquon Barkley, Giants running back at 227 yards. Marlon Mack still up there, 225 yards with the Colts. Josh Jacobs, rookie running back for the Raiders at 184 yards. And I was kind of happy to see this last one, Carlos Hyde, up there with 173 yards. I know it's only been 2 weeks of the season, so I don't expect all these players to stay there by the end, but I had picked up Carlos Hyde off of the waivers.
Nice.
Early on, right, because we had our draft before he got picked up by the Texans, and so happy to see him doing all right.
Me too, man. I'm surprised to see him on this list, especially. I mean, he's been, moved around with so many teams in just the past 2 years with the Browns and the Jaguars and then the Chiefs. But yeah, they seem to be more committed to getting him the ball on the 1st and 2nd down. So it's nice to see that their offense, having Carlos Hyde, better offensive line. Obviously, he's in a better offense than he was with the Browns and then with the Jaguars. So it's nice that it's equating to him getting on this list, getting more yards in the first 2 weeks. Definitely someone that I have on my bench, and I'm keeping an eye on. I have better options at running back, but definitely someone that I'm keeping an eye on.
Awesome, man. Well, the top 5 receivers are pretty hilarious to me. I'd say like 4 out of 5 of them are pretty hilarious. Number 1, John Ross.
Hell
man.
Yeah.
He's been killing
He's on Extra Sauce.
Yeah, he's on our Extra Sauce, which is the name of our dynasty team.
Pretty clever.
Been done. It seemed to represent us well, I think.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, he's done very well for us in our dynasty league and is now leading the NFL with 270 yards. Another funny name to me because I hated him for years, but Sammy Watkins, we've talked about him already today, but he's in 2nd place with 247 yards. Hollywood Brown, Marquise Brown, wide receiver for the Ravens, rookie that drafted pretty high and has been producing very well so far, 233 yards. I really regret dropping him. I picked up, I think, Singletary before the season had started after McCoy had left, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, hey, it's only week 3, man.
Odell Beckham, I'd say probably the most familiar name there. 232 yards. Wide receiver for the Browns now. I don't know if anyone had heard about that happening. He likes to wear watches while he plays.
He does.
So you can see what time it is.
Yeah.
It's got the play clock on there, I believe.
Yeah. Play clock app.
And then Michael Gallup for the Dallas Cowboys at 226 yards rounds it out at number 5. It's been interesting to see him doing so well.
Yeah, happy to see that. Happy to see that there's a wide receiver too in Dallas. Unfortunately, he's out for I believe like 4 weeks.
Ooh.
Forgive me for forgetting the injury, but he's out for about 4 weeks. That's why Devin Smith, Randall Cobb.
I think a self-inflicted injury because he realized he was playing for the Cowboys.
Yeah. No, but he's definitely surprising to see on this list. Happy to see it though. I mean, especially through the second week here. Odell Beckham came through in that Jets game. It's like an 89-yard fucking touchdown or something like that. I still lost, even though I had him in that because I played against the Patriots defense. But
a lot of people
happy to see it. I think he's still an elite wide receiver. I got him in the second round in a couple drafts, so very, very pleased on his performance, especially in the second game against my sad ass Jets.
Awesome, man. Well, I really like looking at those top five.
Me too, man.
Because it's kind of cool to see it develop over the season. I don't think I ever really see other people talk about it very much. So it's cool to kind of track it and keep up to date with it.
You wouldn't think either. Some of these names would show up on there, and it does, show you how sometimes the fantasy production can come different ways. Not just, in this case we're talking yards, but
right.
Some of these names: Carlos Hyde, John Ross, Michael Gallup. If you played them in the first 2 weeks of the season.
No Michael Thomas, no
Yeah,
JuJu.
yeah, exactly.
No Julio Jones.
No Antonio Brown. Yeah, so.
Cool, man. Well, let's go into our next segment, the Spotify Song of the Week. What is your Song of the Week?
So before I tell you my Song of the Week, I did want to mention that what we're doing with the Spotify Song of the Week is we're going to compile it for a playlist that we're going to be sharing at some point.
I think we should share it soon.
Yeah.
People can see it grow. We'll keep adding to it as time goes on.
Yeah, and the idea is each week we're going to add a song each to it. So, and again, it's just sort of a fun part of the podcast. Has to do a little bit with just being at the pizzeria. Here we are talking pizza, fantasy football, farts, all this kind of thing. So music is, at least for the fantasy football pizzeria, it's just the sort of the next logical topic. So just to keep an eye out for that on our Spotify, we will be sharing that on social media so you guys can kind of check it out. And it'll be cool to see it as it goes through the season. See our different tastes here in music. But my Spotify song this week is a song called "Baby Hold On" by Eddie Money. And Eddie Money sadly passed away this week. He was a singer from the 70s and 80s. You probably heard some of his songs, I think there's one, "Take Me Home Tonight" and "Two Tickets to Paradise." This one, "Baby Hold On," though, I love it, dude. Lyrics are so good. The way his vocal is on it. And just it's one of those songs that I've heard before, probably in movies. I never knew who sang it, maybe until a couple years ago. And then I don't know, just playing it over the years and adding it to certain mixes. And then unfortunately with him passing away, just something that I, been jamming here a little bit and I wanted to share with our listeners. Great song, great lyrics. Just one of those 80s songs that you're like, fuck yeah, this is not cheesy 80s. It's not any of this other shit. It's definitely, it's from the 70s. I believe it's 79, but still has that kind of pop kind of sound to it.
He's ahead of the curve.
Yeah. So check that out. "Baby Hold On" by Eddie Money.
Cool. Well, no disrespect to Eddie, but it's ironic you chose the name or the song "Hold On" the time that he passed away, since he didn't hold on.
Yeah. No, life definitely let him be Eddie Money in heaven.
Well, you can take your riches to heaven. I think that's
what
the Bible says.
Hold on up there.
We'll have another Bible segment later on.
Yeah.
My song of the week is "Walk Away" by Corey Wells. I'd never heard of this artist before. I just happened to come across this song on YouTube and really liked it a lot. He's acoustic guitar, male vocals, really almost screaming at certain parts, which you normally don't hear on acoustic and normally doesn't sound very good if you do. But he really blends it well, and it just seems like a solid song from a guitar and vocals and lyrics perspective. So the exact opposite, I would say, of the "Baby No Money" song I suggested last week, where pretty trash lyrics but catchy.
Yeah, really catchy.
This one seems very feels deep and emotional and genuine, and but yeah, just done really well. So if you like acoustic vocals and that kind of style, I think it's definitely worth checking out.
Cool. Never heard of Corey Wells. I'll have to check that out, man.
Awesome, man. So did you have a quote of the week, or is it just me this week?
I believe it's just you. I love me some quotes. I read a couple recently. I just don't recall any, and forgive me for being ill prepared. This is a pretty brutal quote that John has, and it's awesome. It makes me smile, and it's brutal as hell. And there's meaning in it somewhere. That's what I love about quotes is that if it's not obvious, then it leaves you open to interpretation, and you kind of have a poet's mind, and something to kind of like something to draw from. And while he's reading it, I'm going to be playing hand drums.
Yeah.
So you can enjoy the sounds of the hand drums. You can enjoy the quote. You can do both.
Yeah.
You can.
It's layers.
Yeah, layers, man,
Literally.
layers. Before we do that, I just wanted to let you know next week we'll be having another show. I believe we're going to be doing more of a waiver show instead of like the starts like we did this week, but it'll be to be determined because we're not totally sure. This is our first time doing a Wednesday recording, which I like. It's kind of nice not to have a Monday night game.
Yeah, less pressure.
Yeah, a little bit more kind of relaxed. So next week we'll have a show on what we're not sure, but we'll always have the awesome segments of the pepperoni, the pineapple. Yeah. We'll do the top 5 with the rushing stats. We'll have all of our plays, all the good shit about pizza and fantasy football, all the things that you want to tune back in for.
Yeah, definitely check out Zach's Twitter at FFPZ, and we'll have more information for you there.
Yes, and I wanted to mention you can also always reach us on Twitter. I am at FFPizzaman. On Instagram, it's Fantasy Football Pizzeria. Feel free to say hi, talk pizza, talk fantasy, talk music, talk farts.
Yeah, did anyone reach out to you with any pizza feedback or anything like that?
Not just yet. However, I haven't checked my DMs today, so there may be some feedback in there.
All right, cool, man. All right, well, I guess I'll tell where this quote came from first.
Okay.
And then I'll read it. So sometimes my sarcasm is difficult to detect because it sounds the same as me just telling the truth. And when I talked about there being a Bible segment coming up, here's that Bible segment, the quote. It's from Deuteronomy 25, 11 and 12. This is also from the easy version, so no King James for me here. And it goes as follows. Perhaps 2 men are fighting each other, naked. The wife of one of them comes to save him. She takes hold of the sex part of his enemies. If that happens, you must cut off her hand. Do not be sorry for her. And remember, fantasy football is better with pizza.